Hey guys, come on downstairs. This is Minnesota Twins franchise episode 107. Today we're doing the year 2 postseason and the off-season in our Minnesota Twins franchise. First off, the postseason, the American League wildcard game between the Royals and the Tigers. The Royals win 2-0. The Pirates win the National League wildcard 3-0 over the Giants. So a quick look at the division series. The Seattle Mariners and the Cleveland Indians, the Kansas City Royals and the Toronto Blue Jays. Over in the NL, you've got the Nats and the Dodgers, the Pirates and the Cubs. So in the National League Division Series, the Cubs beat the Pirates 3-2, and the Nationals beat the Dodgers 3-2. So you got the Cubs and the Nationals in the NLCS. The Blue Jays over the Royals 3-2, and the Mariners defeat the Indians 3-1. So you got the Blue Jays and the Mariners. The Blue Jays and the Mariners in the ALCS, and the Nationals and the Cubs in the NLCS. Remember, the Cubs are our defending World Series champions from last season in year 1 of our Minnesota Twins franchise, as we have failed to make the postseason in the first 2 years. It'll put some pressure on us in year number 3. First off, the American League Championship Series is won by the Toronto Blue Jays 4-2. And the NLCS is won by the Cubs 4-1. So we've got the Cubs and the Blue Jays in the Fall Classic in year number 2. Can the Cubs repeat as World Series champions? And the verdict is yes, they can. 4-1, they beat the Toronto Blue Jays. So our congratulations to the Chicago Cubs, the 2017 World Series champions, back-to-back World Series titles for the Cubs. As we head into the offseason, some players retiring across baseball, notable players. CC Sabathia retires due to age. He is 37 years old. Carlos Beltran as well at age 40 is retiring. Jason Vargas at 35 is retiring. Jason Worth, also retiring due to age at 38. Curtis Granderson retiring at the age of 37 from the New York Mets. John Lackey hangs him up at age 39 for the Cubs, so he goes out a World Series champion. Cincinnati Reds' Brandon Phillips retires at the age of 38. Matt Holliday also at the age of 38. Andre Ethier is retiring due to age, 35. And Yasiel Puig retiring due to an injury at the age of 27. All right, from our team, Ryan Flaherty retiring due to lack of interest by teams in the free agent market. He spent the last part of the season as a platoon player at second base for us. And a huge development in our Minnesota Twins franchise, Brian Dozier is retiring due to the dislocated ankle injury that he suffered last season at the age of 30. An overall rating of 86. The best player on our team is hanging it up due to an injury. So Brian Dozier is no longer a member of our team. Free agency. Jake McGee, a former closer for us, signs a 5-year, $38 million deal with the Houston Astros. J.D. Martinez signs a 3-year, $39 million deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers. He hit .273 with 35 home runs and 113 driven in. Jose Altuve, this is a big signing in the American League, signs a 7-year, $186.6 million deal with the Los Angeles Angels. And we have signed James Loney as a free agent. He will platoon at first base. Pretty decent fielder at 88. Good reaction at 76. Good contact against righties, not so much against lefties. And good plate discipline. Also, we have signed catcher Devin Mesoraco to be our starting catcher, hopefully. His overall is an 83. Good contact versus left. Solid power versus right. So those are our 2 free agents that we signed. As we head to the winter meetings and trades, the Royals acquire Roberto Osuna from the Blue Jays. In exchange for Jose Bautista, the Blue Jays then turned around and traded Jose Bautista to the New York Mets. So Jose Bautista spends a cup of coffee with his old team in Toronto and then heads on to New York. The Rockies reacquire Troy Tulowitzki from the Blue Jays for 3 minor leaguers, Harrison Musgrave, Brendan Rodgers, and Reese McGuire. Reese McGuire was once on our roster with the Minnesota Twins. Brendan Rodgers, a solid prospect at shortstop. All right, we have acquired Alberto Juarez in a trade with the Seattle Mariners. Overall, he's a 65, potential a B. And we were really just dumping salary with this trade as we send Joe Mauer, who has 2 years left on his outrageous contract, to Seattle. Seattle made it to the American League Championship Series last season, and they hope that adding Joe Mauer will get them over the hump this year. But we say goodbye to longtime Minnesota Twins first baseman Joe Mauer, a Minnesota native, as we just did not want to hang on to that contract anymore and free us up for some moves in the future. All right, the 2018 40-man roster heading into spring training and the regular season. Starting rotation, Cole Stewart will start the year at AAA Rochester, but he is on the 40-man roster. Pretty good at not giving up home runs, good velocity at 84. But has a lot to work on in consistency. Cole Stewart will start the season at AAA. Carlos Chavez will also start the season at AAA. He is a very good strikeout pitcher. His Ks per 9 innings rating is 89. Solid arm strength at 79. Solid break at 74. Not a ton of velocity. And pretty decent control at 65 for Carlos Chavez, but he will start at AAA Rochester. Also, Carlos Frias will start at AAA Rochester. He is on the cusp of making the big league team. His overall rating is a 75. He's got 84 velocity, which is very good. Pretty good at not giving up home runs. Solid break at 73. And he will start at AAA Rochester along with Jose De Leon. Now, he has a lot of upside, Jose De Leon does. Look at his numbers from Major League Baseball in September call-ups. He went 1-0 in 11 innings. He had 15 strikeouts to just 1 walk. A lot of upside for Jose De Leon. A velocity of 74, break of 63. And also the big name here is Jose Barrios. He did not fare so well in September of last season when he was called up, but he's also on the cusp of making the big league roster. We did lose minor league pitcher Tyler J over the offseason to free agency as he refused to sign with us. And our opening day starter on the big league club will be Kyle Gibson. He went 8-5 last year with a 3.81 ERA and 130 innings and a 1.25 whip. He will be the opening day starter. Good break at 77, good velocity. Struggles sometimes with control, but he does not give up a lot of home runs. The number 2 in our rotation will be Alex Meyer. He went 9-12 last year with a 4.26 ERA in nearly 180 innings. He was our leader on the team in strikeouts with 164 strikeouts last season. A pretty solid Ks per 9 inning at 73 and good velocity at 82. Number 3 in the rotation will be Alex Wood. We acquired him last year in a trade with the Dodgers. He went 5-9, a 3.59 ERA, and 120 in a third innings, 99 strikeouts with both the Dodgers and the Twins last season. He will be number 3 in the rotation. The number 4 in the rotation will be Tyler Duffy. Now, his record last year was 4-12 with a 4.88 ERA in 156 and 2/3 innings. He didn't have a great season numbers-wise, but he made the biggest jump of any starter as he went from overall like a 74 last year to a 79 to start spring training. And the number 5 in our rotation will be Irvin Santana. Santana has dropped off due to age. He is down from a 75 overall rating to like a 73 or 72, something like that. But if we can manage to get 180-plus innings out of our number 5 in the rotation, we'll be doing pretty good. And I think Irvin Santana will do a good job of holding down the back end of the rotation. Out in the bullpen, the long relievers. Trevor May, he was invaluable to the team last year. Threw 106 innings in relief. That's a lot of innings for a relief pitcher. 86 strikeouts, 17 walks. Had a whip of 1.18. and he went 8-6. So we hope that he stays healthy. He doesn't give up a ton of walks. The other long reliever will be part-time starter Tyler Chatwood, and he has struggled in the 2 years with the Twins. We acquired him from the Rockies back in year number 1. 4-9 last year with a 6.10 ERA, and he will spend time in the bullpen in probably a mop-up role. Middle relief. Starting the season at AAA Rochester will be reliever Nick Birdie. He spent a little bit of time in the big leagues last year in September call-ups. Good strikeout pitcher at 84 rating, Ks per 9 innings, and a velocity of 90 with a break of 75. He just struggles with his control, which is 47, and his clutch was 44. Jim Johnson will start the season at AAA Rochester. He has declined a little bit due to age, and he probably not happy to start at AAA Rochester after being on the big league club last year for most of the season. His velocity is 82, breaks 74. Home runs per 9 innings, 77. He doesn't give up the long ball too often. Also, Justin Miller can't be pleased to be starting the season at AAA Rochester. He threw 54 2/3 innings for us last year, 50 strikeouts, 14 walks. He has fantastic break on that curveball, 87, and 77 control. As we get to the Major League roster, JT Chargois makes the opening day roster for the first time in his career. A 0.77 ERA in just an inning and 2/3 last year, but he had 4 strikeouts. His velocity is 99. He throws awfully hard, 79 in strikeouts per 9 innings. Michael Tonkin will also be a middle reliever with him. He threw 34 innings last year. Spent a lot of time at AAA Rochester where he absolutely tore it up. And so we called him up and he did well, going 3-3 with a 2.38 ERA, 27 strikeouts, 6 walks, and he did earn 1 save. The left-handed specialist out in the bullpen for us will be Fernando Abad, and his numbers are pretty good. 3.38 ERA, 34 2/3 innings pitched, 31 strikeouts, 6 walks. His break is 96, very good curveball for Fernando Abad, and he will come in to face lefties. He has that knee-buckling breaking ball that looks like it's coming right at a lefty, and then it'll break over the plate. The setup guys, Brandon Kinsler will be our setup guy. He was 2-4 last year, a 2.93 ERA, 61 1/3 innings, 45 strikeouts, 5 walks, 8 saves, and a whip of 1.06, and he has that devastating sinker that keeps balls in the yard. And the closer this year will be Kevin Segrist, as he spent some time at the closer with Brandon Kinsler last year, and he's going to win the job at the closer position because of his clutch rating of 73. He very good at not giving up the long ball as well, and he is actually our highest rated overall player now that Brian Dozier has retired at an overall rating of 86. All right, on to the position players. Behind the plate, Juan Centeno will start the season at AAA Rochester. He was our backup for a lot of the time last year. He played 23 games after we traded away Mike Zunino. He went 16 of 80, batted 200, hit 1 home run and 7 RBIs. And he is a pretty good defensive catcher, but does not have much of a bat to speak of. The Major League roster, the backup catcher will be John Ryan Murphy. He was a starter for much of last season, 94 games, hit 270 with 2 home runs and 22 RBIs, and scored 27 runs. A solid season for John Ryan Murphy, and he will start the season as our backup catcher. That means the starting catcher job will go to Devin Mesoraco. In 91 games for the Cincinnati Reds, he hit 269 with 6 home runs, 31 RBIs, 31 runs scored, and had a pair of stolen bases. So he will manage our staff behind the plate. Devin Mesoraco, our opening day starter at catcher. On to the first baseman. We lost Joe Mauer at this position. We traded him away to get rid of that contract. We picked up James Loney. He will platoon at first base. 28 games last season for the San Francisco Giants. He hit 319 with a home run, 7 RBIs. He still has some pretty good ratings. He's a very good fielder and good contact versus righties, and he will mostly start against righties, but he won't always start against righties because Kenny Vargas is also a good hitter against right-handed pitching as a switch hitter. So Kenny Vargas will platoon at first base, but he will get the majority of the starts. In 123 games last year, he hit .303 with 21 home runs, 64 RBIs. He was a pleasant surprise. After Miguel Sano got hurt, we brought him up to be the DH and back up Joe Mauer at first. On to second baseman Herbert De La Rosa will start the season at AAA Rochester. He did not do so great in September call-ups last year. He hit .118, no home runs, 1 RBI, made appearances in 5 games, but he has pretty good contact against lefties. He's an outstanding fielder at second. Also, we picked up Alexi Amarista at second base during the offseason, but he will start at Rochester, mostly due to our the experience we had with Emilio Bonifacio at second. I mean, these guys were neck and neck, Amarista and Bonifacio, and we went with what we were familiar with in Emilio Bonifacio to start the season on the 25-man roster. Bonifacio appeared in 89 games for us last year. He played a number of positions from second base, shortstop, third base, and all over in the outfield. Hit .281 with 6 home runs, 18 RBIs, very good utility guy for us. And starting at second base will be Jorge Polanco. He started a lot of the year last year after Eduardo Nunez went down with an injury at the shortstop position. He batted .273 in 102 games, 4 home runs, 27 RBIs, a stolen base, and 37 runs for the young shortstop. He will be our opening day starter at second base. On to third base now, where Brian Kaw, a young up-and-coming prospect, will start the season at AAA Rochester. He did really well in September last year, hit 7 of 17, a home run, 3 RBIs, and scored 4 runs in the 4 games that he played for the Twins in September. But he will start the season at AAA Rochester. But if any injuries occur, he could be called up. Matt Dominguez will platoon at third base, and he is going to start against left-handed pitching after an injury forced him to start at third base for much of the season. He hit .262 with 12 home runs and 41 RBIs in 75 games in place of Luis Valbuena. So Luis Valbuena, he hit .198 last year in 65 games, 15 home runs and 31 RBIs. I believe that his poor average was due to the fact that he was playing against lefties and righties as a full-time starter. So we are going to platoon him with Matt Dominguez and start him against righties. He's a left-handed batter, and we hope that his average will come up, mostly facing right-handed pitching. At shortstop, Eduardo Nunez will be the opening day starter, back off the DL. Spent the last half of the year last year on the disabled list. He hit .277 last year with 6 home runs, 37 RBIs, 8 stolen bases. He's a fantastic fielder, and he could also play anywhere in the outfield as well. So the outfielders on our 40-man roster, Ramel Tapia, last year with the Colorado Rockies, hit .260, no home runs, 3 RBIs. He came over in a trade at the trade deadline and played a lot in our minor league system at AAA, and that's where he will start again this year, is AAA Rochester. Also, Robbie Grossman at right field, he will start in AAA Rochester. He hit .291 with 2 home runs and 10 RBIs after being called up. One of the benefits of having the injury-plagued year last year is we got to see a lot of these minor league players, and they got to get some time at the big league club. So we do have some depth if players go down with experience. Max Kepler also played in 81 games with the Twins, and he's going to start at AAA Rochester as well. Fantastic outfielder. Hit .232 with 2 home runs, 13 RBIs, scored 20 runs, had 7 stolen bases in 81 games for us last year. All right, on to the big league 25-man roster. Miguel Sano has returned from injury, and he will be starting at designated hitter. He can also play in the outfield. Obviously, Miguel Sano also plays third base, so he could see some time there this year, but most of the time he's going to be our designated hitter. Hit .290 with 8 home runs and 19 RBIs before going down in like the 30th game of the season last year and missing the rest of the year. Our starter in center field, no surprise, will be Byron Buxton. 139 games last year, hit .277 with 2 home runs, 38 RBIs. We hope to see his home run numbers go up. He had 27 stolen bases, which was in the top 10 in Major League Baseball last year. Starting at left field will be Eddie Rosario. He hit .232 last year, 18 home runs, 47 RBIs, and 114 games. We would like to see his average increase closer to the 250, 260 range. That would be nice to see that out of Eddie Rosario this year, hopefully without losing any of his power. The starter at right field will be Danny Santana. He hit .267, 9 home runs, 34 RBIs, and 137 games. He had 17 stolen bases and scored 54 runs, and he can also play anywhere in the outfield, as well as a few infield positions like shortstop and second base. So, our opening day starting lineup: Eddie Rosario, Buxton, and Santana in the outfield, Valbuena, Nunez, Polanco, and Loney around the infield, with a battery of Devin Mesoraco behind the plate and Kyle Gibson on the mound. That is how we will start opening day 2018. Our starting batting order for opening day: Byron Buxton will lead off, Eduardo Nunez batting second, Eddie Rosario in the 3 spot, Miguel Sano batting cleanup, Santana and Mesoraco after that, number 7, Luis Valbuena, 8, James Loney, and 9, Jorge Polanco. That will be our opening day starting lineup and batting order as we get set to take on the Oakland Athletics from Oakland Coliseum to start the 2018 season, and that'll be in Minnesota Twins franchise episode 108 here on Mama's Basement.